Hello, welcome to Life Coaching on the Move podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Fiske. If you are my regular listener, welcome back. I am really privileged that you keep choosing to come back. Thank you so much for your loyalty and your commitment. If you are new to this podcast, though, if you're brand new to this podcast, I'm excited that you found it. This is me. I just chat away. I'm not reading off a script or anything like that. Just talk about my thoughts, about stories that I've had recently or experiences I've had in the past, or those of many clients that I work one-to-one with. I draw on those examples without naming any names ever. On a host of different subjects. It's predominantly a confidence podcast, but it's also a well-being podcast about you achieving much more, about you feeling a lot better in yourself, in your life, with the challenges that life presents us, with your resilience, with your inner belief, and everything around that. So it's a personal growth podcast. If you are new to this series, it may well be worthwhile going back and listening to some of the older previous episodes. There are about 39 or 40 previous episodes, and if you are able to do that, then I would strongly recommend you listen to at least the first 3 or 4. So go right back to the beginning, because those 3 or 4 are basically the foundation from which all of my other podcasts fall out of, if you see what I mean. So those are the better ones to listen to get an understanding of how I coach and who I am and my approach with clients. So they're well worth a visit, those ones. And if you enjoy those, then feel free to check out all of them, really. This week's episode is recorded whilst I am sat at my son's school waiting for them to warm up for a hockey match. So fear not if you can hear noise in the background, what sounds like potentially little small explosions. I am not in a war zone. I am in fact there. They're warming up, and the noise, the banging that you can hear is what the hockey ball hitting the backboard of the goal. Yeah, you can hear chatter and some noise in the background. So as always, I'm multitasking. I was sat there before his match started and then got out, walked the dog around, killed 3 birds with one stone, watched the hockey, got some exercise and fresh air, as you know I'm more passionate about that, and walked the dog. So and did my podcast with you guys. This week's episode is an exciting little episode, a bit of a pep talk really, about why and how not to compare yourselves with others, how and why we sometimes elevate everybody else or others, particular others, up on a pedestal and necessarily then put ourselves down. It's about how to stop doing that and why we must stop doing that in terms of you being an absolute miracle, and celebrating that fact. So it's motivational, I hope inspirational, and practical. So feel free to listen to that now and enjoy this week's podcast. Today's subject is about comparison, and about how you feel about yourself, in yourself, with regard to how you feel towards others, and how that might be affecting you, how it might be holding you back, how it might be impacting on your life. So many of my clients, especially when I'm working with young people, which I do a lot of, youth coaching or under 25s coaching, teenagers, etc. So many of them say, yeah, but I'm not as pretty as her, or I'm not as fast as him, or strong as him, or whatever it is, clever, I'm not as clever as them, or whatever, which in itself might be fairly innocuous, but actually once that starts to happen, that filters out into other areas of our life. The young people stop, for example, putting their hands up in class in case, well, they're all cleverer than me, I'm not as bright as everybody else, so I won't put my hand up and have a go because I'll get it wrong and they'll all laugh at me. Or as they get older, as I coach sort of early adulthoods, if there is such a phrase, I won't apply for that job because somebody else will be clever, or somebody else will be more suitable and more right for that role than me. So there's no point going through that process, so on and so on. So that mindset starts to grow. That mindset starts to filter out in all areas of their lives, and therefore the consequence starts to become they hold themselves back. So they don't go forward for the job interview or the university placements or auditions or trying out in sport or whatever, because other people will be better than them. Or they won't ask somebody out or go out on a date and start dating or trying to have a relationship because they won't be interested in me, they won't like me, they won't find me attractive, for example. So this poison of comparing ourselves can be really debilitating. As we get older, it can impact on our homes, our car, what car we drive, what car the neighbours are driving, and comparing our car with their car, comparing our home with somebody else's house, comparing our holiday destination where others or our friends on Facebook or whatever have recently been travelling to, and not wanting to say that we've just stayed and done a staycation and gone to Cornwall, Devon, Wales, whatever, because all our friends seem to be going to safari, for example. So it is a worry. It truly is a worry, because why are we doing that? And I think social media is not helping. Don't get me wrong, social media has some great benefits, some great uses, the internet, everything. It's progress and it's advancement. But the downside is what we start to do is compare our inside with other people's outside, because all we see on social media is the outside picture. Photos of them at the airport, photos of them watching the sun go down with a beautiful cocktail in their hands. We only see the polished version that others want to put forward, and it's only their external. So we start comparing our internal. I'm not as good as them. I'm not as clever as them. I'm not as capable as them. I'm not as loving and as happy as them. I'm not as funny as them. We're comparing our inside with their external. So first of all, that's similar to trying to compare apples with pears. It's just not a fair comparison. We have no idea whatsoever what they are living with, what they are battling with potentially, what their insecurities and their vulnerabilities are. So it isn't a fair comparison. And believing that you're not as good as them for whatever reason, in whatever measure you are putting forward, it's self-imposed measure. It's unbalanced. There's no fairness to it. It's not a fair measure. But more than anything, why are you measuring yourself anyway? Why are we measuring ourselves? Why does it matter? Why does it matter what dizzy heights they've achieved in their sport or their career, or how many bedrooms they've got in their house, or how large their garden is, or how much nicer their car is? It doesn't matter. It doesn't bring us happiness anyway, because we're just chasing external things. And even if we do get that better car or one more bedroom or a larger garden or whatever, we're then thinking about the next thing anyway, because very soon the smell of a new car, that lovely, lovely smell when you sit in someone's new car, that fades very quickly anyway. Very quickly it's got mud and dirt all over it and a few scratches where you've caught the bushes, as you're squeezing through a tight road that you have to pull over for somebody else. It's not a brand new car or a new car or whatever for very long. All of those things are short-lived. So they're not going to bring you long-term happiness. Well, I was thinking about this last night. I was thinking, what in my history has given me greatest happiness? And you might want to do this exercise. Other than, obviously, if there's been a wedding day or the arrival of the birth of your children, if you've gone through that yet, they're going to be massive. Let's take those big, significant, understandably monumental days out of it. Just normal routine things. What normal routine days weeks, months. What within that time gives you happiness? What moments can you recall over the years, other than those big events, that you felt most happy within yourself, most content within yourself, most feeling of satisfaction within yourself? And I bet it's fairly normal things. It's not the moment you drove that car off the forecourt or got the keys to your house. It really isn't. In fact, do spend some time thinking about this. I was mulling it over, as I say, last night. What moments in my life, when I look back, do I wish I could repeat? Do I wish I could just go back to just for a little bit longer? Did I cherish? Did I feel the happiest and most content? And you know what it was? The answer that I came up with last night were actually the moments where I was spending time with the people that I really, really cherished, and those special moments. I think I may have mentioned on here that we lost my mum years ago to cancer, which was a horrible loss. It was a difficult time, as you can imagine, and many of you may have already been through something similar yourself. But what it did was we then became suddenly much closer to my dad. My dad, being daughters, we would ring up, "Hi, Dad, it's me. Yeah, do you want your mother?" And he would put Mum on the phone, for example. It was always kind of seen in his eyes, because whether it's because we were daughters or what, that we wanted to have a chat with Mum more than him. He would ask, "Where are you? How's work?" or whatever. But it was always assumed that our long conversation would be with Mum. When we visited, especially when we started to have children ourselves, my sisters and I and my brother, it was always assumed that Mum would be the one that would have the baby and be jiggling the baby around, or pushing the buggy, or whatever. Dad would very much go on the periphery. He would go in the kitchen and make us a cup of tea, or he might go off and take the dog for a walk. And I could join him. Do you want to come and walk with the dog? Sometimes we'd take my little one in the back. He would put my son as a toddler on his back and carry him, etc. So it was very much Dad was on the periphery, rightly or wrongly at the time. But when Mum died, and also for a few years, Mum was very poorly. We knew she had terminal cancer. And of course, naturally, the attention was going to be on visiting Mum, asking how Mum was. And Dad would take that chance to get some respite, and he would go off, and he wasn't now the main carer. He could grab some time to go off around the woods and get some fresh air and some relief, really. So when Mum passed away, it meant it was just Dad. So for a few years, his dementia got much worse when she died. And I think the loss of her brought that dementia on and worsened it significantly, because of the trauma, obviously. It had its effects. And we became much more aware of, I don't know whether he had that severe dementia beforehand or whether it worsened when Mum died, but it now became apparent that he was really suffering. And so as time went by, he needed more and more care. He could no longer drive a year or two later. He was dangerous. It was risky, so we would have to drive him to the supermarket, do his shopping with him, drive him to doctor's appointments, dentists, haircuts, whatever it was. He soon couldn't cook for himself or clean or wash himself and, to take care of himself. As he deteriorated, our care had to increase. But the biggest gift of all in that was that we really, really got to know him in a way. We got to spend special time with him. We got to care for our dad and give something back. And the moments where I had really happy moments, really content, just that feeling of you knew your purpose, you were doing something worthwhile, you were happy, you were in your right place, were those moments with him. Or other times I think back, also my grandma had, she died of motor neuron disease, so she also needed lots of visits. And lots of love and lots of care, physical care. Of course, she couldn't feed herself towards the end and things like that. But visiting her were special moments because thankfully until the very end, virtually till the day before she went, she maintained, she was able to still speak. She couldn't move from the neck down at all, but she could speak up until about the day before she passed away. And she completely had her marbles about her, completely. And so we would have some really, really lovely conversations with her. They were lovely visits. She was so grateful that we visited. They were really happy, lovely times with her, despite everything that she was suffering. They were magical moments with her. And with Mum when she was going. Or the other moments when I think back were with the children, caring for them, looking after them when they'd fallen down and hurt their knee and they came running up to you and give you a big bear hug and cry into your neck and sob because they're hurt and things like that. It isn't the memories and the moments that I've got where you really feel happy, rewarded, content, caring and cared for and loving and loved are those moments. They are not the material things. They are not the big grandiose things and the very posh, expensive holidays or anything. Yes, they're in there, but then they're not the big things that really, really matter. That if I could have my time back, if I could wind the clock back and just have, say, if a genie said to me, you've got 3 moments that you can go back to, it wouldn't be the holidays. It wouldn't be the cars or the houses. It would be those special moments with those special people. That's all. It wouldn't be anything material whatsoever. So think this through. Think it through. What in your history have been those really special moments that if a genie said to you, you could take the clock back and have return to 3 magical moments in your life, what would they be? Because that is the test of what happiness is. That's the test of what's important in your life. So it's an exercise worth doing. Therefore, what I'm coming back to is it's not those moments where you compare yourself unfavourably, usually, to others, therefore resulting in you beginning to hold yourself back because of that inadequate feeling. That measure just makes us feel inadequate. At work, for example, you might have a colleague that you think, oh, they're so good. They're so good, they do this great. How do they do that? They're brilliant on the phone. They're brilliant with customers. They're so much better at presenting than me. Why can't I do it like that? They're so confident. And so as you put them up on a pedestal, you then necessarily put yourself down. So as you elevate them, and drawing that comparison in your mind. But we can all be good. We've got to start looking at what you're good at ourselves. What are we good at? Where are our strengths? What are we proud of? What did I just do well there this morning in that presentation? And see what you did well. Start coaching yourself, seeing your strengths, so that instead of focusing outside and elevating everybody else, why not look at yourself and elevate you a little bit? And I'll tell you for why. This blew my mind. So scientists have worked out, I hope I haven't already said this on the podcast. I don't believe I have. Scientists have worked out what the statistical probability is of you being you, alive now, right now. So think about that. What do you think is the statistical probability of you being you? So think about this in terms of you being born, you being conceived. Think about your dad. What was the chances of your dad being where he was and meeting your mum at that moment, wherever it was, or those people that introduced them? The fact that it happened, the fact that they did speak, the fact that they did quite like each other, that they did form a relationship. That sperm, that particular sperm met, because it could have been one of thousands of others, but it was that particular sperm, that particular egg at that particular time, and was fertilized, and that egg embedded or implanted, or whatever the physical word is, the correct biological term is, and it survived. And it survived the 9 months, which, as we know, is a pretty mean feat in itself. Lots and lots of eggs don't get fertilized, and they don't survive the 9 months. And then it was now you. And you survived the birth, the trauma of birth, and you survived childhood, and you are you, not a different sperm and a different character. You are you now, statistically. What do you think it is? 1 in a whatever. Now, I often ask one-to-one clients this question, and they come up with all sorts. 1 in a million, 1 in a billion. What it's got to be pretty low, and they're right. It's actually 1 in 400 trillion. That is just an amazing figure. You are a 1 in 400 trillion miracle. You are an absolute miracle. Now, if somebody said to you, buy yourself a lottery, it's a rollover, it's a triple rollover today, it's £80 million, and you've got a 1 in 400 trillion chance of winning it, would you spend some money? I wouldn't. That statistic is just, that probability is just so low. You would never buy a lottery ticket if that were the probability of winning. It'd be a waste of money. And yet, you defied those odds. You defied everything and came into the world and survived, and are you now. You are a massive, massive miracle. Your life is a massive gift because you've defied all the odds to get here to be you today. And that is why I so passionately believe we have got to stop comparing ourselves to others, especially when it is less favourably, especially when we put them up on pedestals and elevate them and their worth and their success and their achievements and their looks and their abilities compared with ours. No, don't compare yourself. A, we only see what's on the outside of those, and it's usually a polished version, especially on social media. And B, only you can do anything about your results. You can't do anything about them. You can believe in yourself much, much more and think, I've defied the odds. I am here. I've got this 1 in 400 trillion chance. This life is a gift. I must stop forever from this moment comparing myself to others. I must stop putting myself down. Must no longer self-doubt. I've got to seize this opportunity. In fact, we've all got a moral obligation to make the most of it, because we are unique. We are a miracle. We're here for a reason. We defied those odds for a reason. We've just got to live life to the full now. Don't hold yourself back and think, I'm not going to go for that job. Somebody else will be clever. Go for that job. Learn something through the experience. Don't hold yourself back and not do that presentation because I'll only mess it up. Do the presentation. Put loads of work in. Do really well. Practice, rehearse. Believe in yourself. Stand up there and enjoy it. Enjoy the moment and learn from it. Don't hold yourself back and not join that sports team because I'll be rubbish, so it'll be much better than me. Or don't not have a game of tennis or squash with a new person that's suggested, we must get together and have a game of squash. Yes, go for it. Don't not go to a party or on a date because they won't like me or they won't be interested in me or they won't find me attractive. Go for it. What I'm trying to say is you really, really, really are incredible. It's incredible that you're even here. So we all have the same right. We all of us that's around at the moment, all of those contacts and people and colleagues and friends that you feel maybe possibly slightly inadequate or slightly inferior to, no way. They defied the odds in exactly the way you have. They came into this world in exactly the same way you did, and they will go out of this world in the same way as we all will. All we have anything in control of, all we have responsibility for in between, is how we live our life, how kind we are to people, how polite we are to people, how compassionate and caring and loving we are to people and to ourselves, and what we do with our time in that time. Don't compare yourself to others. It really is, as I've said before, as much of a waste of energy as trying to catch the wind. It's fruitless, it's a waste of time, and it's a waste of energy, and it's a waste of your attention. Divert that attention onto you and becoming a happier person, a more content and loving person, a more rewarded person, and a person that believes in themselves and goes for anything and everything that comes their way in order to live life to the full. And if you're a parent and you start doing more of this, it will impact on your children. It will have a positive benefit on your children. They will see you. Children don't do as we say. They do what we do. They do what we do. Look at all your friends and their children. And look at your own children. I only have to look at my own children, both of which play hockey because their dad played hockey. Both of them are, one more than the other, is really, really fit, loves being outside, loves sport, loves teams, loves team activities. Why? Because he's seen that in his parents. He's seen both of us look after ourselves. They have seen both of us look after ourselves, put fitness first, put social side of it with teams, whether it's running with people and friendships, being in touch and in contact with people. They have both seen that, and they're the same socially. My friend is very much into the countryside, absolutely loves the countryside, knows every tree, knows every bird call. She works for the South Downs National Park. Her son is as passionate, both sons actually, both passionate about the countryside. He writes a blog for the BBC Country File type magazine or website or blog or whatever. He is going to do his degree in that kind of business. That's what they've got from their parents. The father is a scout leader, and both of the boys are into scouts, rangers, and all of that. They're always camping outside, wild camping. They're always out in nature because that's what their mum and dad have done. Another friend, the husband loves trials bikes in the mud and the off-road. Trials bike is part of a group of other guys that do this. His son also does that now. My other friend loves cooking, loves wining and dining, loves having dinner parties. She spends all day putting so much effort in. She just does an amazing job. The table looks beautiful. The food is fantastically displayed and great. Her daughter has just won or came second or something in a countrywide youth cookery competition. Her daughter is as passionate about cooking and catering and caring for people through food in the same way as her mum. We are an example from our children. They either follow what we do or they rebel and go completely the opposite. One way or the other, we're having an impact in how we live our life. They pick this up and they so often follow in our footsteps, or will take something and do something opposite. We are having an impression on our kids all the time. And what impression do you want to have on them? Is it a confident one where you believe in yourself and you're sociable and you're very confident socially, etc.? So the more you work on this and develop yourself, the more impact it will have on your children and them taking tips from you and examples and role model from you. So tell them they are a miracle. Tell them they're 1 in 400 trillion if they're old enough to understand that figure. And tell yourself that figure every single day, that you are, you have defied the odds. So what I'm saying today is believe in yourself. You have every right to be here. And you have the right to live your full potential and be the happiest that you can be, the most content, the most confident that you possibly can be. Do not compare yourself to anybody else. Just focus that energy and that mind space and those thoughts instead on something much more helpful, which is how you can develop you and believe in you yourself. So that's my little gem for today. Tell yourself that every day. Share that statistic with your friends. It blew my mind, and I hope it blows your mind, because it is a great little reminder. It puts everything into context, and sometimes we need that. And do sit down and think about when you've been most happy and what you were doing at that time, and therefore we can, as I've said before, knowing that now, I can use the benefit of foresight now. I can take time to spend time with my family and my loved ones, knowing that is actually care. When I'm caring and giving and looking after and nurturing people, that's when I'm at my happiest. No, I don't know if that's true of everybody. Maybe that's why I went into the job that I went into. Perhaps that's just the needs that I've got. But find out what yours are, find out when you're most happiest, and see how that can filter out into other parts of your life. And just have a great, strong, miraculous week and believe in yourself. I'm really looking forward to talking to you next time on the next episode of Life Coaching on the Move. Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you found it useful and interesting. Just to say, if one-to-one coaching is something you feel could be of use to you right now in life, or to one of your youngsters, young people in your life, or anybody else that's struggling, then do feel free to contact me. Email dawn@milestone-coaching.co.uk. Or you can visit the website www.milestone-coaching.co.uk, where you'll see all sorts of things on there, a blog, some free workshops if you're local to Hampshire in the UK, or a means by which you can contact me with contact me boxes, and also some online programs for sale, online in-depth stress management program and a shorter time management program, all available to you or a loved one or to one of your team members if you're looking to develop one of those. Thank you again for listening. Drop me a line if there is something you would like covered, and I will do my best. And equally, drop me a line if you'd like to share some of your successes. I look forward to hearing from you or talking to you on next week's episode of Life Coaching on the Move.